Yeah, all good. All good. Just going for a nice early evening walk, and spring has sprung. It's a beautiful spring day, and yeah, I was sort of reflecting on sort of question I've been asked about the differences, my perspective, and the differences between managing football clubs in England from professional perspective to semi-pro perspective. Now, I've not managed a football club before, professionally or semi-professionally. I've not managed before. So I can only speak from my perspective in performance coach-based roles in the professional game and the semi-pro game, observing what goes on from my perspective, anecdotally, at managerial level. So I'm giving you my perspective from a non-manager's perspective, a performance-based role I've had, professional level and semi-pro. And I would say both present their own challenges and unique experiences. There are some crossover and parallels, but what I would say, some of the key differences are the resources and infrastructure for professional clubs or club and support. And obviously different clubs are different depending on the level of non-league club, depends on the level of professional club. So I'm sort of speaking from my perspective. And my perspective at the level I've worked in sort of both areas, I would say resources is a big one. Now, resources, professional clubs, obviously professional clubs are going to have more financial backing, and with financial backing, they can invest in more state-of-the-art training facilities, bigger backroom staffs, stronger networking around scouting networks. So the infrastructure, professional level, can support the players more for development, more for recovery, and obviously that in turn provides you, because the players are full-time, a higher standard of play. Non-league obviously is a more limited budget. Managers and non-league need to be, in my opinion, much more resourceful. They rely more on volunteer staff. They've obviously got backroom staff too, but they rely more heavily on volunteer staff as well. The training grounds generally obviously more modest than a professional training ground. And then you've got obviously the players they've got to manage, who have to generally balance jobs with playing. So that in itself is a challenge, pre-season, recovery, play availability, all these things the manager needs to do. And it could even be the manager non-league needs to do a host of other things, like working on the ground and doing so many things that perhaps a professional football club manager would not have to do. So player recruitment and management, I think, are significantly different in the sense that at professional level, you've got a stronger scouting network. You can sort of, I suppose, depending on the level, you can go out and look at global markets as well. Obviously, contracts are a little bit different in the way they work, but that's another story for another day, and I'm sure people better explain that than I can. There's more of a hierarchy in the squad. I would say professional game, the manager tends to focus more on tactics. There's more around psychology, more around developing a cohesive team environment, because the manager's got the players every day. Whereas in non-league, the manager's sort of relying on recruiting players more locally, albeit they do sometimes get players from further afield, one way or the other, or maybe not necessarily just in the proximity of the team itself, the club itself. They might go a little bit further out. But generally speaking, you've got sort of players that live in and around or not too far from the club in one respect. So obviously the players in non-league generally are part-time as well, and you're relying on the manager using their own networks to get players in. They have to use generally their own network or the networks they've got to get players in as well. And obviously the player motivation is a little bit different to professional players. I suppose there's a passion for the game the players have got. They might have more intrinsic, in the sense that personal circumstances to play, because they might have obviously a job, they've got to balance things as well, and obviously juggling the two is not always easy. They might go to university as well, so things they might do all three. So the manager, in my opinion, in non-league, has a more personal approach. They adopt a more hands-on approach, more personal approach to player management. The match day on itself, the fan engagement is different too. Professional clubs obviously got bigger stadiums. The media coverage is a lot more extensive. So fans generally expect a different level of entertainment, or like a higher level of entertainment, because they're sort of paying more money to watch the game. And you could also argue, I suppose, probably more demanding the fans. More demanding in the sense that the expectation, the club to sort of win things, to go up divisions and other stuff as well. But there is expectation for fans in non-league, but there's more of a community feel, I would say. And sometimes fans can have direct relationships and friendships with players and sort of staff, where they might come into the clubhouse after the game and have a drink and have a chat to players and staff. And obviously that generally doesn't happen in the professional game, for the most part, not on that sort of level, obviously, that sort of close proximity. So I think that connection can be a challenge as well sometimes, because managers have got to balance community expectations with practicalities. The practicalities run a team. It can be obviously challenging with sort of running a team, all the stuff that the manager's got to do. There's so much the manager needs to do in non-league. And I'm not saying they don't have to do so much in professional game, but non-league, obviously, there's a lot of other stuff that people don't see that the manager does. And obviously professional managers, there's more scrutiny from the media, probably from the owners, probably from the supporters. They're professional. And obviously job security in professional game is tied into results. It's a results-oriented business. That's not to say it's not results-oriented in non-league, because it is too, to a certain extent, but you've probably got a bit more freedom to develop the team without the same level of external pressure than you would have, say, at a professional level. So I would say, all in all, in brevity, there are, and I think that certainly from my experience watching managers on sort of in both professional and semi-pro, that sort of resources, player dynamics, engagements, expectations, all these things contribute. But you could argue that both professional, from what I can see, club management and non-league are demanding in their own way and require a lot of dedication and passion from the management. But the strategies, I would say, from what I've seen, and challenges that are faced by managers, vary significantly. And I think understanding these differences, for me, I would say, particularly if someone sort of working in the professional game goes to sort of non-league, or maybe if someone from non-league gets an opportunity to play, to manage in the professional level, or maybe just the general insight, I would say understanding the differences would provide a valuable insight into the diverse landscape of English football management. But that's just my opinion. You might see it differently. I'm just sort of speaking anecdotally from my experience, sort of watching. From that perspective, you might see it differently. Great to hear your thoughts.